and welcome to the Sunday Supper at Home. And you know, if the lush bunny tree behind me didn't give it away, we are coming to you live from the Playroom at Family Works. My name is Joey Ashton-Brenner, and I am the Director of Development and Communications here at Family Works. And it's my honor to be your co-host this evening, as I was last year. Now, I don't know if you remember last year, but we talked a little bit about it being our one and only virtual supper. Yeah, well, the joke's on me, because here we are again. But there are advantages to virtual events. You can attend in your slippers and your PJs from the comfort of your own home, and you can avoid this whole bomb cyclone thing. And for me, I get to co-host tonight with the wonderful Family Works board member, Brianna Jackson. Welcome, Brianna.
Thanks, Joey. I'm excited to be here too. So excited, I even traded in my slippers for real shoes. As Joey shared, my name is Brianna Jackson. I'm a member of the Family Works Board of Directors. I'm a Washington native, a proud mom of two. Shout out to Bria and David Lee who are watching tonight, and ready to share with you tonight about all the amazing work of Family Works. But before we get started, I do need to mention that if you would like to watch the program with live captioning, we'll put a link in the chat window. This link will take you to a special website with live captioning.
Now, we'd love to hear where you're watching from tonight on YouTube and Facebook, so please say hi in the chat window and let us know your name and where you're joining from. When I think of the name Sunday Supper, I think of a family gathering, right? I think of catching up on recent events, encouraging and supporting each other. And even though we're coming together virtually, it does still feel like we're all a family. Yeah,
and I feel so privileged to be a part of this organization, this family of participants, supporters, staff, and volunteers, because we've all showed up for each other over the past year and a half.
Really true.
All right.
All right, it is cool to see where people
are
watching from. Is it Mount Lake Terrace?
Okay, Patty and Rick from Encinitas, California.
Very cool. I'm seeing one from Lake City.
I don't see it on the screen, but it should be popping up from South Florida. Mom and Dad, you should be watching right now. So coming from Florida.
And
awesome.
A lot of 98103s as well.
Great.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, as we share where people are from, it is also a good reminder that the feeling of belonging to a place is so important. And at Family Works, we believe that it's vital to take the time and pause and reflect on the place in which we stand. From the Real Rent Duwamish website, they share that publicly acknowledging the original stewards of the land that you were on can be a meaningful way to honor Indigenous peoples and resist erasure of their histories. The power of an acknowledgement lies in learning as much as you can about local treaties and practices while working to build accountable relationships.
So tonight, we recognize the stolen lands we are on as the first step of healing for Washington's first people. We want to acknowledge that we live and work on the unceded land of the Coast Salish and Duwamish and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Coast Salish and Duwamish people, past and present.
All right. Well, tonight, we have an inspiring program planned. First, we're going to get to hear about innovations and changes at the food bank and the Family Resource Center. And then later, we'll meet Blanca and her family. And we'll end, of course, with Tom Douglas himself hosting a live cook-along demonstration. And while we're certainly going to put the fun in fundraiser tonight, yes, I did just say that on camera.
Good one, Joey, good one.
Our purpose here is to support Family Works. And you can do that anytime by sending a text to 205-859-4364 with the word GIVE, and then clicking on the link in the reply or clicking on the link in the chat window.
So before we get started, I would like to recognize our sponsors this evening. Our visionary sponsor, Amazon, Parks Inc., Evo, Group Health Foundation, Hello Robin, Home Street Bank, Jamie Flaxman, RSVP Real Estate, Salmon Bay Community Lending, Vulcan Inc., Dick's Drive-Ins, Glory B, SHKS Architects. Thank you so much for supporting our neighbors in need.
Yes, thank you. And I'd also like to take a quick moment to thank our Sunday Supper hosts for hosting viewing parties, for inviting friends and family, colleagues to gather with them virtually and in person. And they didn't know I was going to do this, but I just want to quickly call them out. Thank you, Kate Bantagreen, Pat Amons, Genevieve Gopsowitz, Pamela Anderson, Tierra Matheson, and Ollie Pollock. Thank you so much for hosting tonight. And I'm sure that there are others that we don't know about, but thank you to each and every one of you for being ambassadors for Family Works.
Great. And just a reminder, if you would like to watch the program with live captioning, please click on the link in the chat window that will take you to a special website with live captioning.
All right, with that, I'd like to introduce Family Works Executive Director, Marcia Wright-Soika, to give us an organizational update.
Thank you all so much for being here with us tonight. And a special thanks to the many of you watching at home who have extended support and kindness to us at Family Works this last year. I am often asked about Family Works. What is it like to be an organization on the front lines of community response at a time when so many in our community are hurting? How do you and your staff keep going? I will admit that there are hard times. When a mom tells us that she doesn't have enough to make her rent and that she is deeply worried about what will happen to her family when the eviction moratorium ends, or when a neighbor is sharing that they ran out of food this week, these are circumstances that we feel deeply and take very personally. But when I am at staff meetings or board meetings or in conversations with community partners, I also find that these are the circumstances that give us fuel to power Family Works to always show up, to think about what we do, why we do it, and how we can be a more responsive organization. Family Works did not close down during the pandemic. In addition to operating our programs according to ever-evolving safety guidelines, we went where we were needed in the community. We launched new outreach programs to meet the immediate needs of our neighbors. We opened a resource center at Nathan Hale High School to immediately connect families to resources when they disclosed hardship at home to a teacher, guidance counselor, or administrator. Parents who seek help are met by a friendly, welcoming community connector at the school where they are already comfortable. We joined the mobile outreach efforts at Robert Eaglestaff Middle School, bringing food and resources on site. We thought about the many clients whose circumstances mean they cannot make it to a food bank or cannot visit during our open hours, and we increased access by launching a mobile food pantry and text-to-go this year. These brand new programs now serve 120 households per week, and with your support can reach more neighbors in our community. Programs like these are made possible because of the financial support of our donors and the dedicated volunteers who showed up even in the early days of the pandemic because they knew people and families in our neighborhood needed help. Last year, 282 volunteers gave more than 8,000 combined hours of service. Volunteers distributed diapers, COVID hygiene kits, and formula. They rode along in our mobile food pantry, picked up donations from grocery stores, and passed out emergency food bags to neighbors without cooking facilities. They staffed the community closet that we opened toward the end of last year, which you'll hear about more later tonight. These programs also provide a pathway to our future at Family Works, where we will use mobility, technology, strong connections with community partners, and the creative and thoughtful input from our program participants to light our way forward. I'm honored to introduce you to two members of the Family Works team who are responsive leaders who listen deeply to our participants and reflect participants' experiences in our work every day. Meet our food bank manager, Toby Solomon Oger, and Edsel Blanche, our Family Resource Center manager.
Hi, I'm Toby Solomon Oger, and I'm the food bank manager at Family Works. We've spent a lot of time this past year thinking and asking participants about the reasons and barriers that might prevent someone from coming to us. Is it because of our hours, the line, maybe general stereotypes around food banks, like what food options are available, or what personal information might have to be shared? We are working on breaking down those barriers to make the food bank a more accessible and welcoming place. Our goal is, and has always been, to create programs that are responsive to the individual needs of each participant. And we also hope to shift some of those stereotypes around the food bank experience, like canned foods and the documentation required to enter. We recently launched our Mobile Food Pantry. It's a food truck that travels to different sites in the community and serves grocery bags based on the needs of each site, including fresh produce, pantry staples, or deli items. The Mobile Food Pantry allows us to connect with new communities, bringing not just food, but also basic necessities like toiletries or diapers, and referrals for other services. We've expanded our Text-to-Go program, which is an option for folks who can't come to the food bank during our regular open hours. They can text us to reserve and customize a grocery box and then pick it up curbside. We've also expanded home delivery and served over 200 households this past year. This is only possible because of our volunteer delivery drivers, so a very special thank you to them. Another thing we've implemented is membership cards to help streamline distribution at the food bank. Now, when participants arrive, they can quickly and easily check in while protecting their privacy. Our goal is to ensure that everyone has access to fresh and healthy foods that meet their dietary and culturally specific needs, whether that's food allergies, religious practices, or health conditions. So this past year, we've begun purchasing more culturally specific foods like halal meats, masa flour, and cooking spices and essentials like olive oil, coffee, and salt. We've also doubled the number of farm partnerships to ensure a supply of fresh fruits and vegetables and to support our local growers. All in all, we're working on showing up, and most importantly, showing up in ways that match the needs of our community.
Hi, I'm Blanca, the Family Resource Center Manager at FamilyWorks. We've been working to refine and adapt programs as we move forward, creating a new normal as we connect with participants through programs and services. A recent development at FamilyWorks is the new Community Closet program. During the height of COVID, many nonprofits shut down their clothing banks, but kids still outgrew their clothes even during a pandemic. We saw that participants had an urgent need for children items, and in response, we held an outdoor clothing market where families could come and get children's clothing, as well as diapers, formulas, toys, books, and anything they needed to care for their child. People from more than 40 households came, and we learned that this has been an ongoing need for our neighbors. Over the past year, the offerings have been refined and expanded, and I'm so excited to share that we have just recently moved into a large dedicated space courtesy of the Wallingford Presbyterian Church. The new community closet is about 5 minutes away from our main Wallingford location and will allow us to do so much more. We've been working on creating a welcoming space where families can easily make an appointment to come and pick out items that fit their needs, and kids can have the freedom to even choose an outfit that makes them feel special. Over the past year, we've been focused on providing easy to access, on-the-spot, one-on-one support, especially for emergency situations. We found that our participants, especially single parents, were disproportionately impacted by COVID as daycares closed and schools switched to remote learning. These parents found themselves unemployed and at the risk of eviction for the first time in their lives. When someone is in a difficult situation, sometimes even just knowing where to start can be overwhelming. And that's where our community connectors come in. Now, during the food bank hours, participants can come out and fill a simple intake sheet and begin working with our community connector team, Morgan and Anissa, who are bilingual, speaking Spanish and Somali. This year, they have worked with more than 250 participants, providing direct support for rental assistance, transportation, enrolling for free phones, and providing assistance to access public benefits like basic food, health insurance, and more. Having seen the efficacy of the Community Connector program at our food banks, we adapted the model to pilot a satellite family resource center at Nathan Hale High School, serving the North Seattle area starting the fall of 2020. School staff heard from families that the need for one-on-one support was crucial, especially from those impacted by COVID. FamilyWorks stepped up to bring low-barrier navigation services on-site weekly, supporting family stability and connecting families to vital resources and programs. One family's experience in particular highlighted the importance of having community connectors at Nathan Hale High School. Earlier this spring, Anissa met with a mother of 4 who recently just immigrated here and was making zero income because she had to support her children's virtual learning. One of her hopes was to pursue a certified nursing assistant certification. However, due to financial barriers, she was at a loss and didn't know where to start. Most importantly, who to reach out to. Her biggest concern was finding a way to pay rent. She was able to connect with our community connector to learn about different resources and contact organizations that were able to meet her family's immediate needs. And I'm so excited to share that she's now enrolled in school and is moving towards her goals to better support her whole family. This is just one of the many examples how FamilyWorks is able to show up and meet critical needs, providing early intervention to prevent already difficult situations from worsening. Our neighbors needs us, and this is why our work is and has been so impactful for our community, where we can help stabilize the lives of others.
Thank you so much, Marcia, Toby, and Etzel, for sharing those updates. I really appreciate hearing firsthand, as I'm sure you all do, about how FamilyWorks is showing up where there is a need.
We have definitely seen an increased need with so many of our neighbors needing services from the resource center or visiting a food bank for the first time due to the pandemic.
Yes. So now this is the time we've all been waiting for. It's the time to give. So please join me in supporting FamilyWorks. You can make a gift right now by sending a text to 205-859-4364 with the word give, and then clicking on the link in the reply text, or you can click on the link in the chat window.
And when you make a donation to FamilyWorks, your gift will provide nutritious food and vital resources for our neighbors and help us meet the growing need for these services. Now, our goal tonight is to raise $125,000 to support FamilyWorks programs like the Food Bank and the Family Resource Center.
Yes, and I'm so excited to share that you have the opportunity tonight to double the impact of your gift through our match pool. Each one-time gift of $150 or more, or reoccurring gift of $15 or more will be doubled up to $30,000.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And on that note, I want to say quickly thank you to our 12 anonymous match pool donors for their generous contribution and for making this donation match possible. Thank you.
Absolutely. And you can make your gift right now by sending that text to 205-859-4364 with the word give, and then clicking on the link in the reply or clicking on the link in the chat window. Any and every amount helps, be it $5,000, $500, or $50. Or let's get crazy and wild, $550.50. You can give any amount tonight. All we ask is that it is an amount that is meaningful to you.
Absolutely. All right. Please consider also joining our resiliency team by becoming a monthly donor and making a sustaining gift to ensure that our neighbors in North Seattle will have access to food and family support throughout the year. And remember that monthly gifts of $15 or more will be matched for the entire year.
Great. So I think we've got some donations coming in. Let's go to the screen and see. It looks like that we've got a $250 donation. We have a $1,000 donation.
Cool.
Wow. We've got another $150 donation, a $2,500 donation.
That's so cool. And I'm just going to say really quickly, thank you, Richard, Heather, Jennifer, Heidi, Tira, Francis. I mean, the list is really long. Thank you,
yes.
Everybody. This is so great.
Let's keep going.
Thank you so much. All right. Earlier, you heard Toby and Marcia mention the Mobile Food Pantry. Well, here's your chance to see it in action at Bella B, a neighborhood in North Seattle. Blanca, a community leader, FamilyWorks partner, and participant, lives at Bella B and generously shared with us how her collaboration with FamilyWorks has served the Bella B community.
First time that I met Blanca, she just exuded good personality and just asked questions about the community and how she can help and everything, and I was like, wow.
Mi nombre es Blanca y tengo 3 niños, Brian, Brandon y Byron. Sí, la primera vez que yo escuché de FamilyWorks fue en la escuela Robert y Gustav.
So our connection actually was through the social worker there. And she spoke to Toby and said that there was a need here because Blanca was the person that was bringing like whatever leftover food that the school was providing, she would bring it here. So I guess our connection was through the social worker, Blanca, Food Mobile, and now that's how we are here now, coming every Friday. she plays a role in connecting the families here with us is because when it comes to the Latino community, you need to understand the Latino community. So that's what she provides, like that comfort, that voice to other people.
Nos apoyan bastante. Aquí, pues, con el simple hecho de venir hasta acá, porque les digo, antes nosotros tenemos que ir allá y ahora ellos vienen aquí. Difícil porque no muchos manejan. Muchos tienen que pedir ride. A veces decía yo, ¿los llevo o traigo comida? ¿Cuál de los dos? A veces pedían 3, 4 vecinos que los llevara.
Blanca is a community leader because not only is she the person who makes sure that everybody is served in the community that she lives in, but it seems that everybody just looks up to her. And if anybody needs something, she is the person that they go to. And then she contacts us like, hey, I have this neighbor that needs this. Hey, I have this neighbor that needs that. So she is our point person.
El COVID nos afectó bastante porque pues mi familia dejó de trabajar la mayoría. No hubo manera de seguir adelante. Todo se paró. Pues yo he escuchado muchas cosas buenas que dicen los vecinos. Dice que wow, que ellos se preocupan por la comunidad. Se preocupan para traernos comida. Están muy agradecidos porque dicen, no todo el mundo haría eso con nosotros. Y Family Works, una esperanza más para nosotros. Para mí es importante que mis hijos aprendan a compartir y ayudar a los demás porque uno nunca sabe cuándo va a necesitar. Y es difícil encontrar a alguien que no sea tu familia que te ayude en lo bueno y en lo malo. Por eso es muy importante para nosotros todo el tiempo enseñarles a los niños el respeto, ayudar a los demás y tomarse el tiempo para poder hacer algo extra, no solamente el límite, sino algo más.
Honestly, she is an incredible human being, and I am so grateful to have met her. And I'm just looking forward to see where she will be in 2 years from now, you know, after everything is said and done and all this COVID is over, you know. And also I'm excited to see her boys.
Wow, wow, and wow. What an amazing story that demonstrates the power of community coming together to be there for one another. This is Family Works. And oh my goodness, those boys, Blanca and her husband must be so proud of them.
Yeah, I got to meet this amazing family when we were filming the video, and I have to say I was struck by Blanca's leadership. You know, her heart for her neighbors, the spirit of service that she's cultivated within her kids. And just as a quick side note, it was cool to talk with the kids about wanting to be engineers when they grow up. It was really sweet. It really is an honor for Family Works to partner with Blanca to support the Bella Bee community.
That's amazing. Please do make a gift right now to support Family Works. How to give? You can make your gift right now by sending a text to 205-859-4364 with the word give, and then clicking on the link in the reply or clicking on the link in the chat window.
And I do want to remind everyone that you have the opportunity to double your gift through our match pool. Each one-time gift of $150 or more or reoccurring monthly gift of $15 or more will be doubled for a year, up to $30,000, which is just incredible. All right, now we're going to look to our screen again and see where we're at. Now on our goal of $125,000, I am seeing $123,360. That is incredible, $368. That gives us, let's see, just shy of our goal by $1,600. That is so great.
That is incredible.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. If you haven't already, please join Joey and I in supporting Family Works. You know, I think back when I became a mother and it became clear that having the support of my community, my village, was not only important but necessary. Family Works for so many families is part of their village, being there with compassion, empathy, and without judgment to provide them with things like school supplies, food, diapers, and the support they need, which represents the best of how we can show up for one another. As a professional who has worked directly with children and families for over 20 years, I too often saw families move through systems, asking for help, only to receive judgment and criticism, leaving families with feelings of embarrassment and, frankly, defeat. At Family Works, community members can avail of their services and know that they can come to a place where they will engage with people who see them, honor them, respect their experiences, and believe that who they are is an asset to the community, not a burden. There is a saying that I love that says, "Be the reason that someone feels seen, heard, and supported by the whole universe." Family Works is that reason for all those that they serve. So let's come together today and show up for Family Works in the way that they have shown up for so many others.
Thank you so much, Brianna, for sharing that. And I just want to say really quickly, thank you for your volunteerism, for your service as a board member, and what that means for our participants now and in the future. Yeah, thank you. All right. As well, we want to say thank you to everybody who is chiming in, making their gifts right now. There's I'm seeing Vanetta, Ollie, Maureen, Shelly. There's just so Esperanza
many.
And Lucia.
Keep them coming. This is great. So
Maria, Karen, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, it's live. This is what we do.
There's a lot.
Yeah, this is great. So we will announce the total shortly, but now I would like to introduce my fellow Family Works board member and volunteer, Allison Parsons.
On behalf of the Family Works Board of Directors, staff, and those that we serve, thank you. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you so much for your support. In addition to serving on the Board of Directors, I volunteer at the food bank. I've seen firsthand how the pandemic has increased the need in our community, and I've seen how more people need to access services, some for the first time, and they are so grateful that we are here for them. Providing a family with nutritious food is so gratifying, so basic, and yet so important. Celebrating a new job or finally getting that apartment after waiting for years are just a few things that I have seen happen at Family Works. Over the last 5 years, I've developed connections with many participants at the food bank. I share in their joys and sympathize when things are challenging. Because of you, Family Works is able to show up with a helping hand. Sometimes that's all someone needs, to know that they matter and that this organization is going to be there for them. And that's why I support Family Works. The work that Family Works does changes lives. Unfortunately, the need continues to grow, but because of you and your support, we can continue to make a difference. Thank you again for joining me in supporting Family Works.
Thank you, Allison, for those encouraging words, and thank you for all you do as both a board member and a food bank volunteer.
Yeah, and I'd like also to, excuse me, that was a clue. Now you know that we're live. I also want to say thank you to our Sunday Supper hosts again for championing Family Works, and thank you to our sponsors who helped make it possible to bring you this event tonight.
And thank you to everyone who has donated tonight. We'll announce our preliminary total momentarily, but we do still have some funds in our matching pool. So if you haven't given, there's still time, and of course, there's no rule that says you can give only once.
That's right. This isn't checkers. There's no rules here.
Exactly.
All right. So now I have some exciting, like, drum roll, like fireworks type news. We are at, what does it say, $135,000.
That just happened, folks.
That was traumatic.
That was like real time. Yay! That's incredible. Incredible.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. If you haven't made your gift yet, there is still time by sending a text to 205-859-4364 with the word give. And then I think I'm chewing on this.
Right.
And then clicking on the link in the reply or clicking on the link in the chat window. We'll announce a final total at the end of our live stream.
So cool. I do think I have it in my eyes. All right. That is so wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And now it's time for supper. We've been partnering with Chef Tom Douglas for years, and we so appreciate him and his team's flexibility in this virtual world. For those of you who've pre-ordered a meal, the reheat instructions were included at pickup. We also sent out the complete recipes via email with the event and info if you'd like to follow along. And I could be wrong, they might also be in the chat. check there as well.
Awesome. So I think it's the time. Joey and I are going to sign off now and maybe go have some supper ourselves. The menu looks incredible and delicious.
It does. It absolutely does. Thank you, Brianna, for joining me
Yes.
as co-host this year. It was
Yes.
so wonderful to have you. And as much fun as this has been, I think I probably speak for all of us that hopefully this is our second and last virtual Sunday supper that we'll be able to gather in person next year. That is the dream, right? And now I'm going to turn it over to the illustrious Tom Douglas, who is live from the Hot Stove Society kitchen.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, so
Too
much.
amazing.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a wonderful night.
Hey, everybody who's out there supporting Family Works, congratulations. What an achievement to already be over the goal. I know we were sending in our donation, and I'm convinced, Michael, when we hit the button go is when they went over the top. Isn't it true? Exactly. We're so proud to be a long-term partner with Family Works. And I'm reminded of a thing that happened last year. It's COVID time, so I'm not exactly sure, but we were talking with somebody who wanted a place to help, and they called me because they know we do a lot of community involvement items. And I said, well, this Family Works organization is really powerful, and they immediately sent a check for $10,000 to Family Works. And you just never know who you're talking to and when you're talking to them that you can make a difference in a big number. So I think all I was trying to say with that is, don't be afraid to ask people, especially people, that show some interest in the project, whether it's their time, or their talent, or their treasure. All of the nonprofit organizations need help in all of those ways. And so I always want to encourage people to get on boards. And even if you can't afford the money, you certainly can afford your talent and your time. So if you can, do everything. All right, you have a nice bag of dinner there, some of you that are watching here tonight. And there's some really detailed instructions on how to go about this. So I'm going to kind of let you follow your instructions on how to heat, how to reheat, and the process, so that I don't get bogged down in trying to figure out who's where in this process. Some of you have probably already eaten already. If you're my mother, my 91-year-old mother, you ate an hour ago. So we're just going to go through it and kind of show you what you got in your bag and how we got there. I want to thank Sean and Michael here tonight. They are on the AV and also the chat. So if you want to ask questions, Michael's going to watch the chat for me and just holler out some questions, and I'm happy to answer them as we go along. So let's get started with our very first thing in your bag, which is the sea bread with the eggplant, smoky eggplant dip. So this goes by a lot of things depending on what culture you're in, kind of how you process it. So it would be baba ganoush if we got a nice hard char on there and kind of pureed it really fine in a food processor. It would be eggplant caviar in my kitchen, because that is I'm more of a rough chop on this particular dish. And so I like the idea that you can see all the seeds and it looks like caviar. So that's what we're going to call it tonight, eggplant caviar. Now, earlier, as we said in our instructions, I charred my big globe eggplant, but sometimes people use these nice Chinese eggplants too, and either one works, okay? That's the idea. And then basically, I just char them to get a nice smoky skin on the outside. And then we're going to cut them in half lengthwise and kind of scoop them out. And I think what's cool about this is that what you get the smoke, and look at my pan where I've been resting my eggplants to let them cool. See all this juice here? That's all from kind of going through and around the skin. So that's your smoke. That's where you get that kind of smoky char flavor from. Because we're taking the skin off, you're not going to get it from that. So basically, I'm just going to go in and scoop the eggplant out of the charred skin. And it really doesn't matter if you get a little bit of charred skin in there. It doesn't matter one bit. You don't want a lot, because then it becomes something on your palate, but really it's not going to hurt a thing. I don't have a particular favorite when it comes to which eggplant to use. My wife grows a ton of eggplant at our farm over in Prosser, Washington. And so I tend to use whatever she's bringing over at the moment. It's amazing over there. You know, it's desert, it's high desert in that area. It's just east of Yakima. And like when I see all this rain and I see it starting to get cold, and I just am thinking, wow, more snow in the Cascades, because the only way we can grow a thing over there is with the snow melt from the Cascades irrigation. And that's for apples, that's for peaches, cherries, hops, all the stuff that grows over there. Concord grapes, vinifera grapes. It's just an amazingly fertile valley, but without that snowpack, which we look for every year, there is nothing. And that's pretty much for, you know, there is some dry wheat farming over there, but that's pretty much for everything that we grow in this state. And oddly enough, it's for things that you won't even think about, like salmon in the rivers. You know, without the snowpack, you got no salmon in the rivers, which we love our salmon. Okay, I've got my garlic on. I'm going to saute that up a little bit. I'm going to chop up my eggplant. Again, I'm not super worried about a little bit of char. Matter of fact, it's going to taste pretty good. And in this particular scenario, I'm not trying to make a puree. You'll see in what we sent you, it should be, well, yours got a little bit pureed in a food processor, but mostly what we sent you is more like a baba ganoush. I'm showing you a little bit different version. So it would be exactly the same thing, except not in the blender. All right, I'm giving my garlic. I don't want a bunch of raw garlic flavor in there, so I'm giving it a quick saute. I already charred some onions at the same time that I did my eggplant. And, you know, I make a whole line of spice rubs and sauces. For good questions, I might even send out, might even mail you for good questions, one of my sauces or rubs. You never know. It's a big maybe. Okay, into my eggplant goes my garlic. And I want all these ingredients to be about the same size. If you're cooking along with me, you want to get a pan on, and we're going to pan fry that pancake, the seed bread that we sent you. And let's get that on the burner heating up. I'm going to do the same. And then I'm going to put a little bit of my smoky liquid into my caviar there. So you can see my onion still has a little bit of texture. All right. I'm going to put some chopped parsley in there, and quite a bit. Don't be shy. Salt and pepper. Now, if you want this spicy, just go ahead and add a little Tabasco or something like that. Delicious. Harissa might be a little bit more in the nature of this dish. I discovered this beautiful rose petal harissa that is so delicious, so fragrant and lovely. Adds a whole nother element to your caviar or your baba ganoush. All right, I know I had, there it is. Now for the fruit of the lemon, for the fruit flavor of the lemon, I'm going to use the zest, right? Because that's where you get the best lemon fruitiness. And then for some fruit and more acid, I'm going to use the juice. Did I say what I put in there out of that little jar? That was sesame paste or tahini. All right, now I'm just going to put my lemon juice in, and I just squeeze it right over my grater that's already dirty. And try and catch. Look at all those seeds that I caught there. We don't want those in our eggplant caviar. Okay, here we go. And now I purposely made this before I did my pancake because I want to give this time to blend, to kind of literally marinate together. You can take a look at it if it seems a little thick, which mine seems just about right, but it's maybe a little bit thick. I'm going to add some olive oil to it. That adds a nice richness. All right. Okie dokie. Now let's roll out our seed bread. So I tell you in my recipe to make this at least a half hour in advance. You knead it for 3 or 4 minutes. There's no yeast in it, but it's nice to get a little bit better texture by kneading it a little bit. Want to get a little bit of extra flour out, and then I like to have my board scraper with me for this. So I'm going to just take a little touch of my dough. You can see I needed it. Look how the gluten has developed. Nice and sticky. I'm going to put some flour down. And I'm going to, so this to me is like one of those things, I love when people have me over for dinner. It's really fun. But I don't love it when they just have gone to the store and they've bought 3 little blocks of cheese and they've bought 3 little pre-made salamis. There's nothing wrong with that, but I like to give it a little bit of a homemade touch. I know you do that in a hurry sometimes, but when you're planning to have people over for dinner, I like to do one thing then. If you just do one item on that little appetizer plate that is homemade, I think you're totally cool then, because you've made a little effort in knowing that I was coming over. Me being the proverbial whoever you invited, right? So this is a way, in my mind, instead of just buying 3 cheeses, 3 meats, and a box of crackers, I am just going to make this little kind of my own cracker, this little seed bread. And it's, to me, that little bit of effort goes a long way into showing your guests that you've thought about them coming, you're excited to have them, and that it's going to be a fun evening. Okay, on medium-low heat with plenty of olive oil. Olive oil is good for you, don't forget. Remember, I had heated up that pan, and I'm going to take my seed bread and drop it in. And you want it to be just like that, where it's just loose in your pan, just like that. While that's cooking, you can see I have it on fairly low. It's not going crazy. While that's cooking, I'll clean up my board. Now I love this board scraper for cleaning up my board. Does so many things, right? Cuts cookies, pie dough, you name it. A lot of the ones you can buy have inch measurements. Like this is 6 inches here, so it helps you when you're cutting brownies in all the right size. First question, all right. I like both. For this, when I'm making this kind of organic seed bread, I like the rougher texture. Why? I don't know. It's just personal. If I'm going for that really fine puree, like you can see baba ganoush at the stores, then I'm probably going to go with more something like a crisp pita bread, a pita chip, or something of that nature. But for this scenario with this rougher one, I like more. Rougher texture on the eggplant itself. All right, let's take a look. We're starting to see some bubbles here. You can tell I have it nice and low. There we go. That's what we're talking about right there. Look how perfectly colored that is. I'm going to turn it down even a little bit more. I want to make sure that it has at least 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes in the pan, because I want it to cook all the way through. And I'll just remind you, sometimes you're in a hurry, I let this sit for almost an hour, and you can just see how pliable, and it's so different than when I first made it. When I first made it, it was a little bit more like biscuit dough, sticky and but not stretchy. Now the glutens have formed and it's nice and stretchy. Sean, can I get a little bowl for my eggplant, please? What's everyone drinking out there? I'm having a little, since this is kind of an Italian-like supper tonight, I'm having a little Chianti Classico. I know some of you took home a bottle of Prosecco that we donated in the box for you. We hope everyone popped the cork when the big number was announced. All right. There's our baba ganoush, or smoky eggplant dip, or whatever you want to call it. All right. Now we're just going to pull this out. And it's soaked up all that olive oil, and that's good. We want that. Just going to double check, make sure it's cooked, and it is. All right. Just like that, we have our first dish down. I am going to give that a quick taste, because that's what I do. I probably should have tasted it before I put it in the bowl so that I knew if it needed more salt or. See, it's got a little chew to it, which I love. So you're just going to put a little bit on your seed bread. That's homemade. It reminds me a little bit of if you've ever had in a Chinese restaurant, a green onion pancake. It's got a little bit of that texture to it. I'll tell you what, guys, you're missing out up here. Just letting you know. All right, we're going to keep it rolling here. I know many of you got your pasta already. Hopefully you've warmed it up. That was for your chicken piccata as a side dish. It's like a classic old American Italian spaghetti house kind of scenario. But I think the important part here is to get over making overly complicated marinara sauce. So for me, it's a can of plum tomatoes, and they're typically harvested really ripe in the can. I puree them with my stick blender. A little bit of butter, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of basil, and that tomato puree, and you are done. 5 minutes, you have marinara sauce. None of this carrot, celery, onion thing that that people talk about sometimes. That is a marinara, and that is simplicity. And to me, I just don't want to lose that simple quality. Let's jump into our lasagna real quick. I did all the prep work for this, which is a lot. If you're going to make this, my suggestion is make a big one for a couple of nights in a row. I will say this particular lasagna doesn't freeze all that well because of the ricotta cheese. So if you're going to make this lasagna for the freezer, just make a bechamel. So if you don't know what a bechamel is a white cream sauce, and use that instead of the ricotta, and then use the other cheeses like the Parmesan and the mozzarella. But ricotta, for some reason, does not freeze well as the binder for this particular dish. So, all right, I got my butternut squash. I just sliced it, peeled it, sliced it thin, and roasted it. I'm going to make a layer of that on the bottom of my little lasagna pan. Okay, then we're going to put in a layer of our mushrooms. Gents, can I get a couple of, oh no, there's one here. I think I'm going to do my kale first. So the kale is just sauteed in garlic and olive oil. All right, we have a layer of that. I buttered my dish first. I don't know that it makes a world of difference, but I did. Then a layer of the mushrooms. The other thing this recipe does is it tells you to make two different kinds of ricotta mix, one with cream, one with milk. To me, it's unnecessary, but it's I hadn't got around to changing that recipe yet before was sent out. Now we just take our first. So this is ricotta, a little milk, a little egg, fresh herbs, mozzarella, Parmesan, and just going to spread that on. Now this is obviously a vegetarian lasagna, not a vegan lasagna. Okay, we're going to do the same thing one more time. I love this dish because it's unexpected. The layers of butternut really do kind of, I don't want to say they taste like meat. They don't. I'm glad. I didn't want a meat lasagna, so I don't understand this whole thing when a lot of, like even the Impossible Burger, it's intended to look and taste like meat. Well, that's not why I want that vegetable. I don't like that manipulation so much. We do sell them and they sell well, but if I was out eating I'd rather just have a big plate of broccoli, done with Chinese black bean sauce or something like that. And so I want the broccoli to be the vegetable, right? So, all right, another layer of mushrooms, another layer of kale. All right, now I've got my second cheese. This one has cream in it. I'm gonna pop that on. And then this will settle down a bit as it bakes. It's gonna rise up a bit, and then once you pull it out of the oven, it will then settle down a bit. So I would suggest when you bake this to put a little something underneath it. And then I saved a touch of my cheese to kind of go on the top. So this is a mix of mozzarella and Parmesan. Because I love a nice, crusty, cheesy, delicious top. So we're not trying to hide the vegetables here. We're trying to celebrate the vegetables. All right. Now you can do whatever you like with this as far as finishing. I'm going to finish with a little bit of chopped parsley. I have another thing that I love that really, to me, adds a ton of flavor and color, which is I have my own, I have my line of spices, as you know, and I have my smoked paprika, which is kind of the basis for many of my spice rubs. So I'm going to put a little bit of smoked paprika right on top. And I love the little smoky bite that you get off of it. Okay, let's pop that in the oven. Michael, will you put a quarter sheet pan underneath that lasagna, please? Thank you, sir. That'll save us a little work on cleaning the oven later. All right. Okie dokie. There's a fruit fly that wants some of my wine. Did anyone write in and say what they're having for a beverage? Actually, I think it was a piece of chopped parsley. Okay, we got to make a match to go with that pasta. Does everyone remember the phone number and the words to text? It's 205-859-4364 in your message box, and then hit the word give, and it takes you to where you need to go. Hey, here's an update right now. $145,142. Give yourself a round of applause. Congratulations. It's Family Works does incredible work. You know, I've been on and off the board of Food Lifeline for 40 years now. And as I said at the beginning of my part of this, your time, treasure, and talents are so needed in every way you can afford to give them. So super proud of everyone who's you know, can afford to do it, but you know, that doesn't let those who can't afford to do it off the hook. There's plenty of volunteer opportunities. There's lots of ways to help out there. Actually, I'm going to use butter for this. All right, got a little butter in there. We've got a chicken. Sean, could you hand me a boning knife, please? Oh, yeah, good. Thank you. Okay, there's a little trick for you. If you ever have a cutting board that's always kind of trying to run around on you, just put a little paper towel or something like that underneath, and it helps to keep it firmly in place. All right, this is about a 2.5 pound chicken. You'll see on your recipe, and I'm not sure how that got through. That's such an industry term, an airline breast. And it got to be that term because on airlines, you would see this particular cut of chicken is the breast with the little drumette left on it. So in case you're wondering what that means, airline breast, that's what that means. And I'll show you what it looks like at the end. So I'm just going to take these legs off to use later. And then I'm going to go down the breastbone. And I always try to cut towards the bone, right? Cut towards the cavity. You don't want to cut towards the chicken breast. Okay. I render that chicken fat for schmaltz so that I can saute in it or make chicken fat potatoes, or there's all sorts of ways to utilize that. All right, so there's our breast, and this little winglet here is what's called, and that's why they call it the airline chicken breast, because when they first put food on airlines, this was the #1 thing that everyone put on was this airline chicken. Okay, I'm going to turn my butter up a little bit because I want to get to a little bit of a brown, not too crazy brown, because we're doing piccata, which is a bit of a white sauce. But I just want like a what we call a beurre noisette. So a brown butter, that's the French term for a hazelnut colored butter. Rob would love spices. What are the best spices? Well, you know, unlike some chefs, I am not a dried spice snob. I think dried spices are interesting. I used them last night in my wife's birthday dinner. I used a dried, what's the French one? Herbe de Provence, right? And I like that spice. But for me, I always keep fresh herbs along my windowsill. And today they all got blown over in the storm. But that's, to me, the best thing is to have like fresh rosemary this time of year, sage, thyme, those kind of things. Okay, I'm putting on plenty of pepper, plenty of salt, because some of that's going to render off as we saute. So you can see my butter is getting to that hazelnut, right? That beurre noisette. And we're going to do this in 2 steps. Actually, I can do it in 1 and make life easy. I'm going to get a nice brown on these, and then I'm going to transfer them to another pan. I know we asked you to open up the lid of your chicken and pull out the sauce because it's in a separate container. You don't want to cook that when you rewarm your chicken. I'm going to make a pan sauce for it here just because, I mean, we sent you what we could so that it was ready to go when you were ready. But when you can, I like to make a little pan sauce fresh with all the drippings from the pan. Okay, so in my pan sauce, I'm going to make a little kind of piccata sauce. So I use a little shallot. Okay. And you don't need a ton. That's probably even more than I need right there. But I want this shallot to kind of be part of the sauce. I don't want it to dominate the sauce. I really want the capers to dominate. So when I cook this, I'm going to make sure that I cook my shallots down a bit. All right, let's see how our chicken is browning. Oh, look at that. I'm going to sear the bottom just enough to lock it in there. I love seeing that pepper on top of the chicken crust. When you get a bite of that, you're going to know it, right? Because you slice all the way through the chicken, you only end up with that much skin with that pepper. So that pepper's got to season that whole bite. Okay. I'm going to pop those in the oven to finish. My lasagna is already looking good. All right, I have my nice brown butter. Into that goes my shallots. And I'm going to turn my heat down a bit. I'm going to add a little bit more butter now. This is a butter sauce, a butter pan sauce. I think I gave you my only peeler, if I'm not mistaken, Sean. Take back to the kitchen. Woo! Working up a sweat. Well, you're looking at 2 of them here. When I was remodeling my kitchen, I lived on I don't think I have one here to show you, but they're called cassette burners. They're about this big, and they come with a little 10-ounce or 12-ounce can of butane gas, and they work beautifully. And they give you about 3 hours of cooking time on that little cassette burner. I love those. I like having those around, even when you have a lot of money and a lot of space. Those are fun to have around. Like if you're making Thanksgiving dinner, it's just a couple of extra burners you can pull out. And, you know, especially for long fires, like maybe the mashed potatoes can sit in the pot on one of those burners, and it doesn't tie up your whole stove. So I love those things. All right, here's a peeler. This is a garlic or no garlic dish, your choice. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit in, but now's the time. Now that I've browned my shallots, I don't really have a lot more browning to do, and I just want to cook my garlic. I don't necessarily want to brown it so much. Okay, I always look for opportunities that, you know, when things are working, to make sure that my wine is still tasting delicious. So everyone take a second, make sure that your wine is still tasting delicious. Whenever you're wanting that flavor, like last night I was making duck for my wife's birthday, and she doesn't love a heavy smoke on anything really. Just not her thing. And I do. So last night on my roasty potatoes and on my duck, I used smoked paprika to give it that light smokiness, like I had done it maybe on the grill. But she didn't even notice. Okay, my shallots are toasted. I put in my garlic. I'm going to blanch that off. I put in my white wine. If you don't like to use wine to cook with, Julia Child is famous for saying she always cooks with wine. Sometimes she even puts it in the food. But if you don't want to use a wine, just use some chicken stock, something like that. I'm going to do a light peel on some lemon zest. Now, in my eggplant, you saw I did a grate. I wanted a much smaller, much tinier zest of my lemon. In this, I kind of want the shreds of lemon to be part of my dish. So I'm going to take off a little thicker peel and then just make a little julienne out of it. I still have to think of 3 more inexpensive, space-saving. You know, that hand immersion blender comes in super handy, and you don't have to have the big mixer around. But other things you just need to give up. Like when you're making mashed potatoes, a lot of people feel like they have to put them in the big KitchenAid and, you know, beat them like crazy. You don't. You just make a smashed potato and use something else, right? Use your meat hammer, or if you have one of those, whatever. But okay, I'm going to use my hand this time. This sauce should be nice and tart. If you remember, I told you it's going to be a butter sauce. So I've got a lot of butter that's going to bind this sauce once I reduce it down. And so I want plenty of lemon to work with that butter. The last minute, I'm going to throw some chopped parsley in there. Yes, folks, there is a trash can down there. I'm not just throwing it on the floor. All right. Doesn't it feel good to have dinner and do something good for Family Works all at the same time? I think it's awesome. Okay, meat thermometer. Now would be a good time to have this conversation, right? Which is, I don't go in there with my finger and go like this on my chicken, right? What I do is I have these little things for $15. They make me a much better cook. And so there's another one of the inexpensive tools that fits in a small kitchen. but it lets you know what's going on, whether you're cooking a piece of salmon, this chicken breast, a steak, a prime rib, whatever you're cooking, a turkey. This thing will tell you instant. They're an instant read digital thermometer, and they'll tell you instantly what's going on with that chicken, so you're not sitting around there guessing what's on the plate. It's time for me to find a dish to go with my chicken piccata. Now, the other thing that I like to make sure that I do is warm my plate. Okay, look I put about a quarter cup, half a cup of white wine in there. It's starting to reduce. When it gets to be a good syrup, that's when I want to stir in my butter. And this is enough for 2. You're just melting your butter onto your chicken. This is more of a pan sauce, and what I'm trying to share with you is the technique. Here at the Hot Stove, we're all about sharing lifetime techniques, things that you'll take with you and use forever because they work. So now my garlic has had time to cook, everything. I'm starting to get bigger bubbles. Let's check our chicken and see where we are at temperature-wise. I can hear when my sauce is getting to that point. Okay, still need a few minutes. I got to pull that off of there because my chicken's not quite done. All right. Okay, when this gets down to a syrup, that's when I want to stir in. And I'm going to use just a little wood spoon. Let's taste it for acid. If you just put the butter in, you end up with this very rich kind of broken butter sauce that has no acid, no balance. That's exactly where I want to be. It should be almost make you pucker. It's so acidic because we're going to tone that acid down once we add the butter to it. And you want plenty of sauce. And your pasta should be about ready to go. I'm just going to add a touch of water to this. All right. Time to add our butter. Bring that back over here. Now, you don't even really need to have this on the burner here. We're emulsifying the butter into our sauce. And you can see how it's, Sean, you got a good look at this. You can see how it's changing the color of the sauce, the texture of the sauce. Right? And you can see I got some, the sauce is a little bit brown because I browned the shallots. You don't have to do that. That's just the way I like it. And I've got a good amount of salt and pepper on my chicken. And, the capers are a little bit salty. So I'm going to leave the rest of that just the way it is. Got my nice warm plate. Okay, so you can serve the pasta on the side or right on the plate. I like doing it right on the plate. Even though sauces are going to mix a little bit, I'm not worried about it. And the warm burner is going to keep your sauce warm, right? Remember, there's residual heat happening on all these iron grates here. I want that like that. How good does that look? Would you eat that? I'm going to doctor my pasta up here a little bit. There we go. I would eat that. That is a classic chicken piccata with my own little touches, you know, because everything has to have your own little touch. You can put chopped parsley on if you want. I don't think we need it. That is a good question because I'm a big fan of gifting food that has some of your soul in it. So I love that question. My wife makes one that is I help her with, but it's like a fruitcake. I know everyone's going to say fruitcake. I love fruitcake. A matter of fact, we just ate the last bar of her fruitcake. So these fruit bars, we just ate it yesterday when we were making her birthday dinner from last year. And they're still fantastic. So those are really fun. It gets people turned back on the really good fruitcake with good fruit and good nuts. Instead of some of that stuff you see in catalogs that you're a little scared of with maraschino cherries on top, right? So love that. I make a little pepperoni every year with, this is chanterelle mushroom season. So I make a little pepperoni with chanterelles. That is something that I don't can, so it has to go in a frozen situation. So when you bring it over, it's frozen. Any sort of farm produce that you've put up, or we have tomato sauce. We made 18 quarts of tomato sauce yesterday. We do something called the Prosser Meatball Project. And so we buy a steer from our neighbors over there in Prosser and a lamb. And so we mix the beef and lamb and make a whole bunch of meatballs. My daughter comes over with her family. My mother-in-law's there. One of our employees is there that she makes it for her family. She's got 4 kids. And so we make 50 pounds of meatballs and we all mix it and we roll them. And typically we freeze them raw. We mix cheese in and most delicious meatballs. And then when you show up at somebody's house with that for a Christmas present, and you know, Christmas is crazy and they put it in their freezer and then they forget. And then they go and they find it a week later. They say, oh, I forgot about these. I'm going to make them right now. You have just rejoyed the whole holiday in January with your Christmas presents. And if you happen to be able to mix and match that with a little pint of marinara and a little bag of IQF or individually quick frozen meatballs, you will be a hero, a January hero with a December Christmas present. Michael, would you eat that? You're going to eat that. All right. I'm going to put this over here. All right, should we make some dessert? Let's do that. Not sure where everybody is in their process, but I melted my chocolate and butter. Oh, by the way, those of you who got polenta instead of pasta, you know, it's just simple as that, right? You just cook it with water and you're done. I like to add cream and cheese, but some people don't eat the dairy. If you do eat dairy, a creamy, cheesy polenta is hard to resist. So that's what I got there. I'm over a double boiler. Cooled off a little bit, and so did my milk. I'm going to turn those back on. So that's my chocolate and butter. We're making the chocolate pudding that you got in your bag. So essentially we have cocoa powder, cornstarch, and sugar. We're going to mix that up. And then we're going to take our eggs and mix that into it, along with about a half a cup of milk. So most of the milk is over here heating up with the rest of the sugar, but This is just to give us a nice base. Of course, we have a little vanilla. What would we do without vanilla? You know, there's been a worldwide shortage of vanilla for a couple of years now. All right. I'll pull that off the heat. You know, I don't remember if I'm supposed to put in the chocolate first or the warm milk first, but I'm going to put in the warm milk first. And I'm just going to put a bit in because we don't want to scramble our eggs. Get it all mixed up. And once you temper the whole thing, then you can kind of pour it all in. You've probably heard that before a few times. And now I'm going to put in my chocolate. Because that's warm, your chocolate shouldn't seize up, I hope. I hope that's the case. Yeah, we're good. And Sean, I think I forgot to bring a strainer over, if I'm not mistaken. I like to strain this into another bowl so that I make sure that, you know, this pudding is intended to be just going to make sure I'm not screwing this up. I am a savory chef, and you know what I did? I added the chocolate before I was supposed to. So this isn't going to work the way I wanted. I needed to take that. I needed to take that milk and egg mixture and take that up to a pudding, and I didn't do that. So that's essentially what you're going to do. I don't think I can fix it right here, right now, but the idea is that you add the chocolate once it is a pudding. Thankfully, yours is all done and you don't have a knucklehead screwing up your pudding. So we send it to you in these little cups. Now there's a couple of ways to get this out. If you can get it out, I like the with no hot water method. But if you can't get it out, if it's fighting you, then you could use this hot water method. But when it's with no hot water, it comes out a little bit cleaner. All right, I just got an update. We're at $145,459 and would love to hit that 150 mark. I'm going to pop that little bit of a we're not gonna get this out, I don't think, without putting it in a hot water bath. The thing on this particular one too is you have to be aware of, like when you're just doing this with whipped cream, you can make it look beautiful because of the whipped cream, right? So instead, we're going to put it into a little hot water bath, just up to the sides. These are compostable cups, so you can't use too hot of water or else they'll melt. Just make it look pretty. Of course, if I was eating your pudding tonight, I would just eat it out of the container. There's a fun way to do that. I just don't. My wife would kill me if I served it in the plastic container. She's crazy. She actually won't use paper towels in our home restroom. She puts out fresh washcloths for everyone to dry their hands on. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of. If you're going to eat it out of your container or you got it out of there and onto a plate, we're going to drizzle a little olive oil on it. And this is totally your choice. But when you have, people always ask me, when do I use the good olive oil or the other, the cheap olive oil? And this is the time to use the good olive oil. And the other thing we like to use is flake salt, because it adds certainly adds salt and sugar. Opposites are great, but it also adds a nice crunch. So a little bit, don't overdo it. We're not trying to eat salt. We're trying to eat dessert. But the kind of salty, chocolatey thing has really become a classic. $150 is our goal, huh? And we're at 145. Woo! Woo! Very impressive. I'm going to continue to cook my pudding to see if I can rescue it, because of half the part of being a good cook is being able to rescue things when they go sideways on you. So we're going to just keep an eye on it and see. Most likely with the melted chocolate in there, that it's going to want to curdle a little bit. So we'll see. Shall we try our pudding? Is anyone to the pudding course yet? Or are you all done already? Olive oil, it took me a while to get olive oil in desserts. And what it really took me was, there's an olive oil cake out of Spain that I started. Who made it? I think Martha Stewart made it for me one time. I'm not trying to name drop, but I think that's where I first had it. It's either Martha Stewart or Alice Waters. Probably Alice Waters. But I was, it's just, I'd heard about it and I'd, tried it a couple of times, not the cake, but just olive oil, this or that, and just didn't get it. And after having that cake, I really got it. And then now I just like a touch of it. For some reason, it's just really good with this chocolate pudding and salt. I like that little crunch that you get from the salt. It's like a little burst of flavor to go along with your chocolate, your creamy, delicious chocolate. Okay, I think I need to add one more kitchen item to my 5 list, if I'm not mistaken. I love, there's on your wooden spoon collection, there's a flat-edged wood spoon that I use all the time for when I deglaze a pan, when I'm working on a stainless pan or not a stainless, but a Teflon pan. I don't use Teflon very often, but once in a while I do for eggs or something. But like a straight edge wood spoon, you wouldn't think when you see this at the store, is like, is that really necessary in my kitchen? But I find myself, more than a wood spoon, I use this all the time. So that would be my number 5. Little things that are inexpensive and that fit in a small kitchen. The real test is, does my wine go with my chocolate pudding? I bet some of you thought when you saw that little pudding, it's like, I can eat 4 of those. And then you jump into it, right? And it's so rich and delicious. The wine is perfect with that. I'm not sure. It really works with the olive oil, the salt, and the pudding all at the same time. Yeah, it really is. Okay, fellas. I want to thank everyone for joining Family Works, having such a nice support group for Family Works. I think is really awesome. Every organization out there needs a support network, and you guys are so important for Family Works. And I feel like I'm important to Family Works too. To me, it's part of my passion, and we do lots and lots of events throughout the year, and this is one I wouldn't miss for the world. So thank you all. Let's get to that $150,000 goal. That would be great, and hopefully everyone's eating dinner and having a good night and enjoys their time. And remembering while you're eating that other people have to eat too. We always say here at our restaurant group, many people, and we're so appreciative, many people can afford to walk through our front doors, but it's the ones who can't afford it, that can't make that financial commitment, that doesn't let us off the hook. They still need to be fed, and we still have to figure out a way to feed them. So thank you for doing your part, and we'll continue to do ours. Cheers, everybody. Tom Douglas here at the Hot Stove Society.